Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Donnie Glover, publisher of BlackUSA.News and BeMoreNews.com here in the city of Baltimore. We attempt to cover the Black experience, one item that has been very important to us for a very long time, from the very beginning, is Black business. In today's America, it's often referred to as minority business enterprise. But be that as it may, we have a stellar show for you today. This is the Contractors College. We have with us probably the expert, the best of the best, Mr. Alfred Isaacs. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and you?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good, good.
How long have you been in the realm, working in the field of minority business enterprise, MBE?
Oh Lord, I'm gonna age myself.
Okay, quite some time.
30 plus years.
30 plus years.
30 plus years.
Why don't you share with us some thoughts to get us going? We want to expose people to the realm of minority business enterprise, women's business enterprise, what it means, the efforts, the political efforts that have been made, the accomplishments, the struggles, the challenges. Give us an overview, if you will, Mr. Alfred Isaacs.
Okay. Okay, let me start at the beginning. I operate on the premise of authority. Our authority is either laws, regulation, policies, procedures, the basis in which things are developed. Historical racism, as we look at it in retrospect, was originally developed from fear, the fear of the unknown. I don't know who I'm dealing with. The Black business, as we call it, is economic opportunity for our community. If our community is working, it is prosperous. If it's prosperous, it can contribute to the development of a city, county, state, country, world. But it all starts at the individual level. Let me give you an example. There is a fictitious firm that is going after a contract. He invests in time, he puts his or her numbers together and submit a bid. Part of the problem is that they don't understand what the bid language says. So, being the people we are, we read the bid, we identify what it should be, and we bid what it should be, not what the contract says. Recently, a lot of firms are realizing you only bid the scope. So if it requires the usual low bid and the bid calls for 5 items, boom, 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 boom. But you know that it requires 6 items. You have to bid the 5 and meet the requirements of the bid. So you bid the requirements, you get the contract, you do what they say, it doesn't work, it is called change order. People look at companies that come in with a $200,000 bid and end up with $500,000. The only reason why is that they bid the contract. So not only do we have to assist firms in the bidding process, we have to explain to them what to bid to get the contract. If you understand that the government does not use best value as a whole, they use low bid. You bid low bid. In return, you know that the low bid cannot achieve the objectives of the contract, then you submit a change order. It is difficult to tell somebody that this is what they want and argue with them over the fact that it is not what they need. They bid what they want because that is what they believe they need. And then you'll find out that, the agencies, general contractors, everybody, I mean, in the federal realm, FTA, Federal Transit, they believe that everybody who gets part of a federal funded contract is a recipient. So everybody has responsibility. So they call everybody a recipient. Let's use that word for, the example. We have to and it's difficult because, I fell into the same thing. I know what you need, and I try to give you what you need upfront. No, I give you what you want because I know you have to come back to get what you need. It is an understanding of the system. I've never worked in government, never been a government contractor, a government employee, but I've worked for government agencies. And the difference is I am able to come in and look at both sides of the spectrum. I understand what the process is. I understand that there are budgets. I understand that when they do estimates for these budgets, it's usually, if you're lucky, 9 months to 2 years. So by the time it goes out to market, the prices are wrong. Technology has improved. The process that was used to create the bid doesn't work. So they bid something that they think they want 13 months later. Companies that are smart bid what the contract says, knowing that it will not work, that there are technologies and processes that need to now be implemented. So if Black businesses understand the system, then, for a better word, we're able to manipulate it. But you can only understand the system when you learn the system. So I tell everyone that I am a student of the programs. I'm connected to everything that I can be connected with. I get, tons and tons of emails because I need to understand what is going on so I can analyze it, break it down, and explain it in its simplest form, ABC. It is a mindset, and the mindset is success is achieved when you understand how the game is played. And if you don't understand how the game is played, you're never in a position to take advantage of what is required to be successful. A tradesman who is, let me give you a perfect example. Let's use construction because that is what everybody's pushing, infrastructure or repairs. Let's use a mason. Mason goes through trade school to reach a stage where there is a lot of opportunity and he creates his own business. The truth of the matter is he's an expert in his field. Not an expert in procurement, he's not an expert in contracts, he's not an expert in that. As a small business, I understand that there's, you're the jack of all trades, you're the one. You have to be able to identify the truth and then act upon it. If you understand how the system works, you can work the system. A lot of people don't understand the system, and a lot of people don't have what they say, they don't have time. In construction, there is a term, time is of the essence. Construction, like every other contract, is a schedule. There's a start, there's a middle, and then there's an end. 24 hours in the day, you have to plan, and then you plan the work and work the plan. What I've seen is that there's a lack of understanding of what the process is. You know, it took me years to decide which degree. I was one of those that got a degree much later because I could not find a degree that was useful to me. Eventually, I found it, operations management. And I tell people I count steps. So when I look at things, I look at the process. And the process is important because if you set up a process that works, it will work. You understand that? So if you understand that, bonding is not insurance. Bonding is a line of credit. With a line of credit, it creates opportunity because as your bond grows, the banks, companies, whatever, primes, look at that credit and say you must be successful because you have a bond capacity of $2 million. Bonding is something that you can build easily if you understand the process. There are certain primes that I am aware of. I'm not here to advertise any particular prime, who, if you have a bond as a small firm, regardless of it, they'll take it. That is how they develop firms. So if you have a $50,000 bond and it's a $100,000 contract, they'll give you that 50, they'll ask for you, give me that 50,000 and I'll help you build your capacity. Some companies advertise it as their development program. Some people do it as a matter of principle. Company I know did it and I said, why don't you advertise it? He said, that's what we do. That's what we do. We help companies build their bond. So, I was talking to a trucker and he says, I don't need a bond. I'm a trucker. I said, yes, you do. If you want to do just in time trucking, where you deliver it to the project and put it in the day of or the day after, there's something called a performance bond. If you don't bring it in time, you stop the work. Federal government requires trucking companies to have a performance bond. You're part of the supply chain. You need to be reliable, and we know that by the bond. So everybody can get a bond because a bond is only based on performance. Service organizations, it's not specific to construction. If you're a lawyer and you do work and you're on contract, you should have a performance bond because it builds your capacity. And there are certain steps you have to do to build that. But if you understand, like, okay, let's use Dun & Bradstreet. Dun & Bradstreet is the corporate version of credit. So you register with Dun & Bradstreet, you put your information in there. When you apply for a commercial loan, the bank looks at your Dun & Bradstreet because sometimes you see them ask you for it. Give me your Dun & Bradstreet number. They go check your corporate credit. The object of a small business is to move out of personal guarantees and go into corporate guarantees.
Could you repeat that?
The object of a business is to move from personal guarantees to corporate guarantees. The president of IBM or any company, Fortune 500, Fortune 10,000, medium-sized business, you have graduated out of the small business program. The president don't sign his house. The company's credit does, which is based on their capacity. When you're building that, your object is to move out of personal credit because personal credit will destroy you. The company may fail, but you won't if you have corporate credit. Corporate credit is slow, it is strategic, but carefully developed, it can move. I was talking to a small business, and you know, as explaining the process of what you do, you know, and the individual wanted to find, I said, well, you need a corporate attorney that does contracts, that does government contracts. You need to find a corporate accountant and who can set up your books so you can grow. So everything is to set up what you have now for the future. Because if you don't, you're going to pay now or pay later. Better you pay now because you have it's a building block. So I said, okay, when you find an attorney, ask them, you know, interview them. You are going to hire them. You interview them. An attorney. How many litigations have you done? And these questions, because it's important. You need an attorney that's prepared to go to court. Most people like to negotiate and settle out of court. You need an attorney that has a reputation to go to court. Now, the statement is, you don't need a good attorney. You need a great attorney. And this is the difference. A good attorney can write you a good contract. A great attorney can get you out of a good contract. When you're looking to grow your business, there are going to be occasions. There are going to be occasions. Let me say it again. There's going to be occasions where you have to get out of a good contract. So you need somebody who can get you out of a good contract. So you start now. So when you interview the attorney, because if you interview your attorney, they work for you, or they're going to. You have to interview them like any other person you hire. Show me where you have gotten somebody out of a good contract. Show me the case document. You know, show me what you can. Let me have that, what I call the warm and fuzzy feeling. That if I get in trouble, because there's no such thing as an ironclad contract, because the people who write it have an escape clause in it for themselves. You do that now. So you make those notes and you ask the attorney, show me that you have gotten out of good contracts. What type of contract? Commercial, government, federal, private, whatever. So you know that as you build the business, you have that protection. Because some contracts look good enough. But sometimes you need to get out of one. Now, with the federal program, it says that DBE can voluntarily exclude themselves out of the contract. And I've been looking for examples, and I have not found any. But I have seen where a company says for reasons of capacity, they are unable to meet the obligation of this contract, and they quote the regulation, and they get out because there is no penalization if a DBE removes themselves from a contract. It's just that the DBE can be replaced. And if you look at the federal regulation, it says if they voluntarily withdraw. Now, I've never seen it in Maryland, but I've seen it in Florida, where there was a situation and we said, okay, let's test this thing. So we went in, we quoted the regulation, and they required to withdraw based on the fact that they have maxed out their capacity and they'd like to leave the contract. The government accepted it. The prime contract accepted it, and they walked away, not as being terminated from a contract, but from withdrawing from a contract. That is one. The second one is that you need a good corporate accountant, because as you grow your business, there are certain financial reporting requirements. And as you increase your capacity, the type of report changes. Eventually, you have to go with an independent CPA audit. That's expensive if you don't have a relationship with a company that can provide it. Because what you are doing is that you're sitting there now and looking in the future like a business plan. You know, this is what I'm going to do. With everything else, you have to have that. You know, there are people that will help you on your journey, but not everybody's going to follow you through to the end. But you need to look at how I can project. In other words, Danny, think about it. You have a problem, commercial problem, and you hire a very aggressive, well-known attorney. And you say, my attorney will contact you. And your attorney contacts the other person. And they look up this attorney's record and realize this attorney has no fear of taking you to court. That is what they do. Usually they come in and try to settle. Only because when it goes to court, it can become public info. You have seen it on the news. Such and such filed in state court, such and such filed in that court. There are people that hunt these things because it is news. A large company does not want to go to court against a small company because public relations is what keeps them alive. A company creates a reputation of, taking small businesses to court. Eventually, politically, it is suicide.
So look here, Alfred, we've just been joined from our West Coast Connect. Doug. Now, Doug, let me ask you, are you going to hold that the whole 2 hours, or are you going to set it down? Because that's a lot of work.
Well, Donnie, Tammy and I are very excited that you have invited us back. So I will hold this for 2 hours if that's what it takes to keep watching this show.
You can't set it on something?
Yeah, I'm working on that now. Hold on.
Okay, well, Doug, we're talking now with Alfred Isaacs. So, Alfred, let me just get a summary statement from you of what we want our MBEs to know across the country.
What they need to realize is that business is a process. And there is a start and there's a process you go through. And it is like I use the concept of the seed. When you plant a seed, you nurture it and it grows, but you don't see it growing. What you see is when it comes out, you see the result. If you look at yourself as a seed and you develop everything you need to grow, eventually it will grow. But understand that in growing, there is a process. You know what I mean? So if you have a plan, the plan has to be executable. It's not something you put on paper, it's something you invest in. That's why when people ask me to write a business plan, I tell them, no, I can't. Because it's not my business. It's your business. What I can do is guide you. Because I believe also that you have to teach people to fish. So one day they can fish for you. If you do the work, then they never know how to fish. But if they understand the process, they can hand it down to the next generation. This is what you need to do. This is how it is done. In Jamaica, a successful person is not how much wealth they have acquired. It is how many people they have made success. Because if you want to be a millionaire, you don't talk to a thousandaire. You talk to a millionaire. If you want to be a trillionaire, you don't talk to a millionaire. You talk to a trillionaire. So you always associate with people who have done it, who can help you. The question is, and I've said it before, you have to ask the right question to the right person to get the right answer. The question is, tell me the concept that you used. Because if you understand the concept, the principles from that person in that industry, you can now use those, modify to your industry, and make it work. It's funny. I said to people, I can tell you what side of the bed you sleep on based on what foot you hit first off the bed.
Oh, say it again.
I can tell you what side of the bed you sleep on based on the foot that hits the ground when you wake up. Think about it. If you sleep on the headboard is behind you, if you sleep on the right side of the bed, when you turn, your right foot comes off first. That's your plant foot. When you sleep on the left side and you come off, your left foot hits the floor first. That's just observation. It's simple, but it is a process. And if you understand the process of success and the principles, you see, everybody will tell you what they did. You need to find out what the process they used so you can adapt it. You understand that?
Yes.
Yes. So the object is, if you want to be a financial advisor, you find the best financial advisor you can get your hands on. And you ask them if they can show you, give you an understanding of the principles they use. Not what they did, the principles. You know, and with the principles, you can say, okay, I can't use that, but in my circumstances, I can use this. But you understand that everything has a principle. And that is what small business need to understand.
So Doug, do we have you now? You gotta unmute yourself. You gotta unmute yourself.
Yes, you have me now. You have my undivided attention.
You're not going away. So Alfred, we have with us Doug Blackshear. He's with the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And as this is our third week of discussions on MBE, which is Minority Business Enterprise. We've also talked about WBE, Women's Business Enterprise, DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and the entire realm of small business as it relates to people that look like us, Black people. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us back. Tammy's getting ready, but I am here representing.
So Doug, what is Minority Business Enterprise to you?
I can give you the Black version and I can give you the white version.
Well, let's get the white version first.
Okay. I had the opportunity of working on one of the largest contracts in the Bay Area hospital. And once they got rid of all the Black contractors except me, in the meetings, all you heard is, well, we got to give them people that. Oh, he's on the special team.
Mm-hmm.
The only way he would have gotten on this project is because of he's a MBE WBE person. It is so disheartening, Donnie. And is it okay if I call you Alfred?
Sure, yes.
Oh, okay. It's so disheartening to understand what they think that this means instead of understanding what it truly means. Now, I gave you their perception of what it means. Their perception is, oh, we got to help the Black folk because they can't help themselves. We have to set aside for them because they can't do it by themselves. Now, the Black version of that is, for generations, for hundreds of years, we have not even sat down at the table to even negotiate and participate. So because, and I think Donnie knows I'm brutally honest, because the white machine believes that we need handouts, believes that we can't do it ourselves, but in actuality, and I'll get back to the meeting in a minute, in actuality, he's not, he's more worried that once we understand and once we know how to do it, we can do it better. We can build it better. We can come in on our own accord. If we had the banks to finance these projects, we won't need, once again, as I said last time, we won't need a handout. When I started the Highland Hospital project, I came in under the MBE WBE. And I told the outreach person, hey, this is getting me in the door. This is my ticket. This is like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. I'm in the Willy Wonka land now, and I'm not leaving. And I stayed there for 5 years and endured everything, including being called the N-word, including being called, having my men meet with the general contractor of that project, having them sit, my men who respect me, have my men and I sit down and say, we don't want any chicken, wings. We don't want any 40 beer bottles laying around this hospital. We don't want no blunts. Let me be clear to those who are in ears listening to what I'm saying.
Those who have ears here.
When that happened, I went straight to the county and I went straight to the general contractor. And I said, you will not have this superintendent out here degrading my people, degrading me, and degrading Oakland. You guys, and this company was from the East Coast. I said, you guys are here to help build a hospital and provide a mentor protege program. So I've gotten a little heat off.
You got me riled up this morning already.
Well, you call it Malcolm X and Martin Luther King all up in one. So, but I meant a minority business enterprise, a minority program, a women entrepreneur program, a women business program. It's designed to open a gate that has been locked, closed, and welded shut for people who look like you, me, and Donnie. At the end of the day, our history has shown, given a fair opportunity, not handouts, not welfare, not crumbs, but a fair opportunity to excel, we will do it. And I want to expand on that just a little bit more, Donnie and Alfred. Everyone told me when I started that project, my biggest job prior to getting on this $433 million project, I had averaged about 150 a year. This was my opportunity to get into the big leagues. I started with a $50,000 contract. Alfred and Don, I apologize. And I get excited. I get dyslexia. Alfred and Donnie, let me be clear. When I got that first, it was like a Black Panther smelling blood. I smelled that. I got that first check. And let me be clear about the first check. When I started the project, I said, look, I don't have A, B, C, D, and I don't even have my first week payroll. And I said, I need for you guys to front that to me. The reason why they fronted it to me, because they had plans of getting rid of all the other contractors, and they thought I was going to be an easy kill. The third day I started the project, they wrote me a check for $36,000. And the rest, I got into the 7 digits after that. Move forward. The point I'm making here is these contractors have it set in their mind, whether it starts at the top, in the middle section, and let me be clear. On the bottom level of the big white company is usually the Jethros, the trailer Bobs, etc. They're not too intelligent. The middle people put the middle management and the upper management put those bottom Jethros and trailer people out there because they know they have no ethics. They're there to get rid of us. At the end of the day, as I've been saying, Alfred, and I've been saying, Donnie, MBE is supposed to be a ladder for some people, specifically black and brown, more so black, to step on and climb up. The white machine, once you get to the first level, they start taking the screws out of the peg. So each time you go up, you fall. They put grease on the next peg, so you slip. They do everything in their power to make sure that you fail. I am so interested in what Donnie's doing because when I talked to Tamara last week, Mrs. Brown, the same problems that they're having back east, they're having in Chicago. Atlanta, well, maybe not so much in Atlanta, you know, that chocolate city, but Little Rock, Arkansas, Oakland, California, LA. They have us fighting each other like 100 or 200 years ago when they had two black men for the entertainment of white men or white people fighting each other, clubbing each other. So the man or woman who wins, then they go, okay, they got rid of the other people. So now it's easy to get rid of this one person. It's easy to get rid of one person instead of 10 people. So they pit us up against each other until we band together like a fist. Like a fist. You see this fist? I can take this fist and knock somebody out. But you see this finger? They can break that one off. They can break that one off. They really want to break this one off. They can break that one off. So we must band from West Coast to East Coast, from North to South. And the most important thing here, or two, we got to get good lawyers out there. If we're making money, we can pay for a pool of lawyers. I listened to Tamara Brown last week, and she's got a hell of a fight, as you know, Donnie, coming up. And part of Tammy's and I, and I'm not, I guess you could tell I'm excited about what I'm saying. We're coming out there most partially because my dentist is out there, but to talk to Ms. Brown and let her know she can win.
Mm-hmm.
All it takes is one to win and open the door and let us all in.
I just want to step in. You mentioned how some white people look at the MBE WBE, the minority business enterprise, the women's business enterprise,
right,
as if black people are getting a helping hand or getting a handout or getting a set aside. But that's not completely true when you consider most recently, I remember under Obama, he bailed out Wall Street. And that goes all the way back to even 1862 with the Homestead Act, which gave 160 acres to whites to move in various Western territories, or even the reparations paid to slave owners after slavery had ended. So when I hear this handout, I hear a double standard because white America has gotten handout after handout after handout at our expense. So I don't see it as a handout. I see it more as a leveling of the playing
field. Yes, but you have to understand. You have to understand, that if you read the history books, whoever win the war, write the history, right? So, I found out 2 years ago that the white only was not the community, was the deed by the Department of the Interiors when they started homesteading. It was in the deed. And how I found it out is that I met an elderly gentleman whose father was the first property owner. And before he died, he put him on the deed. Guess what? The deed could not be changed because all they did was add a person. And he said it was in the deed. And I said, really? He says, yes, that's why we as white people couldn't sell it to non-white people.
Wow.
And that's what kept the price up, because you could only sell it to white people, and then they would use that community to create wealth. Because when you bought a piece of land 2 generations ago for, let's use a number, $10,000. And 2 generations now, that same property is $200,000 or 2.5 million, depending on the zip code.
Exactly.
That is wealth. But it was not that the individual wanted this, it's that the federal government put it in there because that is what the mindset at the time. No, you realize that there are certain laws that have not been taken off the books. They have just been not enforced. Well, so if you're going to clean it up, let's clean it up. Let's go back and look at all of these laws that and identify them and fix them so people will know the type of benefit that was given. A white person that's born my generation, your generation, does not know the history.
No.
Because they don't teach the history. What they teach is the propaganda. So if you understand where they're coming from, not saying that they are misunderstood or this is what they believe, this is what they were taught.
Exactly.
I am special. No, I come from a country that's 98% black. And why they put the 2% is because of the immigrants, the people who marry and bring the people back that are not, that are Europeans, which we can talk about that later, the definition of a European. But
okay.
But so we say we're 98. So we leave the 2% for the others, right?
Right.
It's a colonial system and we have our class problem. And in Jamaica, let me give you a quick history, is that there are two types of people in Jamaica. Those that were brought up the English, because we in Jamaica learned the Queen's English. So we do not understand Cockney. So we can understand Old English, there cometh forth and therefore and thereafter. And I've been accused of talking very formal, but the English I learned was the Queen's English, which is formal. Can't help that because that's what I know. But then the other side of that is those people that were dragged up, people who had no social graces. And it's a matter of what is considered social graces and how it's been defined and how it perpetuates itself and how you present yourself and it's how you present your community, your family, whatever. So there is a difference. But our ism was based on a classism. And there's a statement that says you can buy a house, but you can't buy class, because class is something that is taught.
Right.
My definition of being a gentleman is totally different from the European definition of a gentleman. It's totally different from the American definition of a gentleman. But that's a different story. But if you understand that historically it was, and I still make the statement, look at the census, US Census. And that's what I use. Race, black, white. Asians are regional, their location, and Hispanic is cultural. There's only two races in America. So when we talk about minority, we're not talking about Hispanic, which is cultural, and we're not talking about Asian, which is geographic. You see what I'm saying? If you're going to talk race, let's talk about the two races that the federal government has identified. There's only two, white and black. So we're not having a race war. We're having a white and black war.
Yes, and the most important thing, what you said is so true, is it's about race and class. Because you have people who live in trailer, both white and black, who have no class. But because they're white, they get class by what would you call it? They inherit class.
Well, you can't purchase it because if you don't know what is considered, class is not wealth,
Right. It's not.
Class is a mindset. In other words, if I treat you with respect and I tell people I still open doors for women and I don't care, because I had a conversation about that with a millennial. And I open, when I take my fiance out or any woman that I put in my car, I open the door and I explain to people why you do it. You coming into my car, you're on in Jamaica, in Brazil, they call it under protection.
Right.
And they want a man that they can go under, which I guess Western call it being submissive or whatever, right? But when you and I are friends and I'm taking your wife somewhere because you're unavailable, right?
Right.
So I come and I pick her up and I open the door and I say, put on your seatbelt before you close the door. Because if something happened to you, I can't face Doug. Because Doug has given me the responsibility to protect you out there. You're now under my personal protection. I have to take a bullet for you because I cannot face Doug because Doug trusts me. You see what I mean? You see the difference? So my reputation and the trust you have given me is important to me. So, you see people and you treat them as people. Being a gentleman is acknowledging that people are people, regardless of who they are. I don't open a door because you're white or black. I open a door before because you're either female, child, or elderly. Now, because of the white beard, people are opening the door for me and saying, sir. And I laugh because I remember that happened maybe 3-4 years ago. I was considered sir, and I'm saying I'm getting old. I'm not one of those old people, but I try to explain. It, and then when I do it, most of the white women say, I didn't know chivalry was dead. I said, it's not dead, it's just confused.
Well, I piggyback off of that, it goes directly, and let's transfer that over to white and black.
Mm-hmm.
White men, specifically white men, have been taught by their daddies to fear and hate us. White men's dad's dad have been taught to fear and hate us. And let me be clear, it's not fear and hate, it's they're scared.
Mm-hmm.
They know we're intelligent, we're articulate. If they keep books away from us, they keep economic development away from us. And they keep
the Bible from us. The same Bible. I didn't even know that existed until recently.
They keep us against each other, pitted against each other. Let me give you a perfect example. Out here in the Bay Area, we could, as black business people, could be stronger economically if we would do one thing, and that's unite. What the big white machine has mastered, you pull the greediest black person out, one who cares about nothing but himself or herself. You give them a few crumbs, put them in a nice house, put some rims on their vehicle and let them roll around and throw a few dollars in the air. You give them crumbs and you have them control the other black people by saying, you want to be like me? And they do that. Then you just have to do the song and dance. I don't do that. And I don't suggest other people do that. We stand on the strength of our own strength.
Doug, you got to tell them about your 3-year fight.
Alfred, one of the biggest construction companies in America, top 10. They decided that they were going to bid on a hospital in the Bay Area. Got the project, made all these promises in front of the county board of supervisors. We're going to have mentor protege program. We're going to have this, that, and the other. It started with 10 of us in 2010 working on this project. By 2011, Alfred, they have gotten rid of every contractor except me. And the reason why they didn't get rid of me is because I'm like a tick on a fat dog. Once I burrow in, you got to burn me out. I was harassed, go to meetings after they got rid of all the black people. Whenever I'd walk into the meeting, and I mentioned this at the beginning, is that, this is Doug. He's on the special program. What they try to do is embarrass you, humiliate. They have different tactics. Now, let me be clear, Alfred. Long as the check clears the bank, I'm coming back, and don't nobody put their hands on me. I'm coming back. My daddy always said, sticks and stones will break your bones, but a name will not cast, will not hurt.
It would not hurt you, yeah.
I was blackballed. I was just stripped of everything. I had to move back to my mother's house, and I stayed in the basement at my mom's house, in the house I called the basement, for 3 years. They didn't want a court. They didn't want to go to court. They were just dragging it out. Big business have millions, if not billions of dollars to make sure not one black person succeeds. Just like this trial with Derek Chauvin. That was only one cop. Now, how many killings do you know just personally of black men and women?
Well, that was that situation was
Oh no, Alfred, come on, we're gonna stay on here. Come on.
no. We're talking about a perfect storm, and we can relate it back to big black business. We talk about a perfect storm. Think about all the elements that came in to play in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Now, if you're on the other side, it's considered you know the theory of the perfect storm, right? Two megastorms meet and double versus two megastorms meet and they cancel out each other. That was a perfect storm within a certain timeline that you might never have that repeat again. That is why I said that's a pivot point, because every single thing came into place and lined up the dominoes.
Well,
The fact that it was a live execution, unfiltered, that the world saw, live execution, unfiltered, because it didn't come from the media, so there were no tweaking. Usually you see the gun pull and you hear the shot, but you don't see the body fall. We saw the man get executed live. The perfect storm. In business, that happens periodically.
Hold tight, Alfred.
Alfred, we economically are executed every single day.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Let's be clear. The white man would rather take our money and put us homeless versus kill us, because if we're dead, they can't have free labor. So let's get some points and facts here. My point saying that is, economically, the white man, and I think, Donnie, I hope I don't get us in trouble, but I think the white man understands that if he controls our money, he doesn't have to kill us, or he can kill us when he wants to. Because if the white regime that runs this country knew that African American black people had the resources to get attorneys to fight for their rights, they would respect us. Right now, and getting back, let me finish the story about the 3 years. I stayed in a basement. I stayed at my mother's house for 3 years. Blackballed, no money. But in my mind, I kept saying, well, how do brothers go to prison and do 10 years, 20 years? All you got to do is not die. And I had attorneys. The good thing, I had attorneys who took the case on the contingency. They saw it was, and they were white attorneys. White attorney. They saw the blatant racist disrespect for black economics that was perpetrated on me. They took the case and didn't ask for a penny until, well, after we won, of course. But the point here is, I was fortunate. There's so many black and brown brothers and sisters out here who are being bullied economically, and you can't help but have a hole in your heart when you think about what I went through, and then you multiply it by all the people that you don't see, or all the people. A good example, Trump. How many businesses did Trump put out when he was, he didn't pay anybody? The white man does the same thing. He will nickel and dime you to death on your business transaction until he owns you. That's their playbook.
Well, if you let me tell you, I work a lot with the transport, because I started out in aviation. So I work with a lot with the federal transit systems, right? And the truth of the matter is, the Code of Federal Regulation, if you understand it, it works. These programs work. The problem is that the people who are working it do not understand the program themselves. Because when I do DBE presentations, I don't talk about what everybody else talk about. Oh, the discrimination and all of that. I don't talk about that. I says it has 8 objectives. If you hit the 8 objectives, you have the program. So when you start talking about leveling playing field and you say, okay, let's talk about that, everybody in the room get quiet. When you talk about only eligible DBEs must participate, everybody get quiet. Because those are the 2 main requirements. Those are what it's supposed to do. No, it says to level, not to ensure. To level, which is an affirmative action. To ensure only is an affirmative action. DBE program is an affirmative action program. But we do not hold the people who are supposed to be running these programs accountable.
Let him get a word in, Alfred. Come on, Doug. And welcome, Derek.
Let me be clear, Alfred. Let's go to where the source is. It's the government.
It's a system.
And the system is the
system.
government. The government, by design, does not want African American, people of color, black men and women, to make money to create our own entity of life. They want us to be like a baby on a bottle, a baby on a titty. They want us to be sucking that titty, so we always have to rely on them. We can't. The biggest fear of a white man is an intelligent black person.
Doug Burnett, come on in the show. Welcome. You are involved in business, construction, engineering. You've been listening to the show, and I'm a little jealous of that push you got there, Michael Jackson, but I'm going to let you slide today.
Hey, man, I get that from my father, so I'm not going to deny that. But it's been a pleasure listening to you guys for the last couple of weeks. I appreciate everything you've conveyed to us. My hat off to you. Continue to do what you're doing, my brother. I've been to Oakland, actually. I worked with the Army Corps of Engineers for over 12 years. So I did a little work out in Oakland. But you're right. The government is at fault. I mean, as a project architect with the Army Corps of Engineers, I had to review and design RFPs and sit down and select from 40 or 50 different contractors to get shortlisted so that they could actually be awarded these projects, or at least make a presentation to be awarded the project. And during this review, say that again.
What is shortlisted?
Shortlisted means let's say out of 40 responses to the request for proposals, you might shortlist six companies,
right,
to come in and actually do the presentation, right? And so according to the design criteria and project specifications and past performance and capabilities that the government had set up, I mean, you would always come up with the same 4 or 5 contractors, because they were the ones that had the same experience, all the experience. If you didn't have a certain amount of experience, you couldn't be shortlisted. Right. And so it's like they was taking turns getting projects,
exactly,
or at least getting the opportunity to present. And then even on the that's on the construction side. Now on the design side, you know, a lot of times they're minorities from the professional services portion of a project, you know, on the early end. And they try to fulfill their minority MBE requirements on the back end at the lowest end of the construction components.
Clean up, and
you know, so they don't even let us come in the door and be a part of the engineering and the design. I mean, if you got 20% or 25% minority participation or MBE participation, that should be at all levels of the project, not just on the back end.
And Derek, can I pick
and it was really disheartening. It was really disheartening, man.
Doug wanted to reply.
And you know,
go ahead, Doug.
It sounds like we've been playing in the same game. They put you on the cleanup, trash debris, traffic.
Exactly.
They don't want you out there doing measurements, doing geological
calculation,
architecture work, because they
Why?
know once we learn it. Excuse me.
Why?
Derek, you're doing a great job, but go ahead and answer that, or I can. I got one.
Once you learn it, Once you learn it, your company builds a capacity. Now you have past performance. Now you got expertise that they can't deny.
Thank you.
You acquire expertise, knowledge, and capabilities that they can't deny, and it allows you to become a part of future projects.
Exactly, man, brother. We gonna have to hook up.
It's the process.
To finish it. Go ahead,
Donnie. It's the process. It's how the process works.
It's the process.
Yeah.
And see, if you never acquire the expertise, knowledge, and capability and past performance, they never have to allow you in a project.
Thank you. And the bonding capacity, the insurance capacity, they want to keep you there.
The whole nine.
Let me be there's a company, and I'm going to give them their props. It's a company called Merriweather and Williams out here. It's a insurance and bonding company. When I had an opportunity, my first big shot to work on that hospital, biggest one in the county out here, $433 million. When I reached the $50,000 threshold, they said, "Well, Doug, you got to go." And I had told myself, "No, I'm not leaving. We're going to figure this out." And they said, "Well, we can't get you bonded. We can't get you insurance." There's a company out here called Merriweather and Williams. It's owned by a Black woman. She made sure that I got the $2 million insurance policy.
Liability insurance. That's right.
Right. And the bonding capacity. These, excuse me, Derek, Alfred, and Donnie, these big redneck white boy company owners do not want us to learn, because they know once we learn, we can do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We can go to the bank and get the funding based on our experience and our capacity. The politicians, and let's be clear for those of you who own business, such as I have and still do, government contracts make your business grow exponentially. The white boy excludes us from that opportunity by many different ways. The first is under the MBE WBE program. They say, "Oh, we're going to help these people." They put you down in the basement, in a corner, in the door welded until the project closes, and then they let you out and say, "See, we had one here." Second, our local politicians, whether it be city, county, state, and federal, they're not fighting for us. They're selling us out. I know that for a fact because let me get this one thing out there, and I think Donnie.
Go ahead, Doug. Go ahead.
We met, my attorney and I met with the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, with a county supervisor. I'm trying not to tell on anybody. The brother sat up there and said, "Hey, man, that's wrong how they treating you. We don't believe that. Oh, I mean, we're not going to tolerate that." And guess what? They tolerated it, and they were part of the legal action. Until we band together, put our fingers together to make a fist, and knock this economic roadblock out of the way, they're going to always have their foot on our neck and their hand in our pocket.
All day long. I've been having that issue for at least the last 6 years. I mean, Baltimore City has an MBE requirement. I think it's about 26-27%, which is great. It's one of the largest MBE requirements in the country, right? Wow. My hat's off to all the brothers and sisters that assisted that to coming into play. I live in Baltimore County. Typically, MBE requirements are based on population of the particular culture or minority, right? Baltimore County's African American population is 30%, but our MBE percentage is only 15%, and it's been like that for the last 6 years. And we got a minority councilman representing us, and my understanding is, why don't we approach this? Why don't we address this? Why don't we look to raise this? Because billions, I'm talking about billions of dollars have been let in county government projects over the last 4 to 6 years. I'm talking about money that's never going to come around again.
Exactly.
Opportunities that's never going to come around again. And we still being suppressed to a mere 15%. And of that 15%, WBE is a portion of that as well. So like you say, you got some politicians that, and I can't even say they don't know, because that's your job to know.
They know.
I mean, if you don't make a difference,
hold on.
If you don't make a difference economically, why are you a politician? If you don't empower your community economically, why are you a politician? Why are you even there?
We need
hold on a second. Hold on a second. The goals are set based on the disparity study. The disparity study is based on the businesses. If they're using the state disparity study, you have to read it. That's why I was talking earlier about understanding the process. You have to read it. You have to understand what it is saying, and then you know the right question to ask the right people. Maryland, disparity study, MBE WBE states that the African American male is own business, black owned businesses, has disparity in credit, financial resource. It is stated, it is a recommendation. Now the question is, with that knowledge, you can take it to your state representative, you can take it to the people who are using the disparity study tool, which is the goal setting, and say, what are you going to do about this? The federal disparity study and the state disparity study, I looked it up, has the identical words. Why? Because the population is the same. DBE minority. The difference is the DBE is supposed to cover a wider area, but the state, unfortunately, uses a company that uses Virginia and DC as part of their market area. So if you understand what the recommendation is, you understand that the state has approved these recommendations. You understand that the state has not done nothing. And I'm going Jamaican when I say nothing. Nothing other than approve it, and has not put in a committee to find out why there is financial disparity. You're suffering from maybe because politicians do not know the program.
Oh,
maybe they don't.
Alfred, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Now, let me give you a perspective from a brother who fought both politician and the big white billionaire machine. They know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
One of the politicians,
they know.
Women. One of the politicians I talked to, his friends and his daughter were getting jobs from the company who I was suing. So what are you talking about? They don't. That they know. They're part of it. There's these sellout black politicians that have sold their whole race out to enrich themselves, and it's disgusting. It's shameful, and we need to East Coast, West Coast, North, South. We need to band together and put their butts out of office and put some politicians in there, because we can fund politicians just like white boys can fund politicians. We just need economic engine to development to put ourselves in a position to do that. The white man keeps his foot on 99.9% of the black businesses out here, making sure they don't get that ability to get into them tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. That's by design, man. There's no way in the world you can tell me that these politicians don't know what's going on. I bet you what, they know where the check coming in their bank accounts coming from, and it ain't from you and me, people who look like you and me. Thank you.
So what you're saying is that it could be that might be ethical violation. That's what
ethical or not, we getting broke and they studying. They doing diversity study. Let's be clear. That diversity study they had in 2000 and 2021 is the same thing. They just cut and paste. But knowing the problem and doing something about the problem are two different things.
Of course.
They already know the problem. They don't want to do anything until we start putting these politicians out of office and putting people in here who are going to care about their constituents.
I know Baltimore County just completed a disparity study at the end of March. It's like a 700-page document. just completed it.
Mm.
Now my hat's off to Prince George's County, because they do a local contractor requirement as well. Meaning that if you don't have an office within Prince County, and if you don't employ a certain amount of employees within Prince George's County, you don't get shortlisted, you don't obtain these contracts. So they dictate and regulate who's going to actually be awarded these contracts, and it forces outside contractors to actually come in and open up offices, help develop the community, hire additional employees and personnel from the community in order to obtain these contracts. That's something Baltimore County hasn't done. You know,
hey, Doug,
you got a lot of.
Doug, I want you to welcome to the stage with us Tammy Willis. Doug, why don't you introduce Tammy?
I'd like to present a wonderful, intelligent, articulate woman who's on the executive board of the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce. This woman has provided her expertise for the Department of Justice. This woman has been a U.S. Attorney General letter recommendation carrying young lady, in addition to working for the City of Oakland Auditing Department. This woman currently, with the help of the President Kathy Adams of the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce, developed a resiliency fund through the pandemic last year, which raised over $1 million to help out local businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you the owner of one of the few Black woman-owned engineering and construction companies in the nation, Tammy Willis.
Thank you.
How was that, Donnie?
Excellent.
Thank you. Yeah,
Tammy, please.
So yes, my name is Tammy Willis, and I am the CEO of Magnolia Engineering and Construction. And we're one of the few Black women-owned and operated construction companies out here in Oakland. And thank you for asking me back from last week. I know I wanted to touch on a couple of points from last week. I know we were talking about the disparity study that was conducted in Oakland. And I'm also on the board of the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce. So in response to the disparity study, the Oakland African American Chamber joined forces with the San Francisco African American Chamber to form a committee to advocate for Black contractors, minority contractors, and women contractors to make sure that we are getting on these larger projects. So they're reaching out to the larger contractors, and they're also reaching out to the contracting agencies to make sure that our Black contractors are getting on these jobs. So one of the things I wanted to talk about from last week, I talked to Fred Jordan, who is from the San Francisco African American Chamber, and I wanted him to come on the show and kind of explain our committee, because those are things that we can do. I know you guys talked about, the problems, but we need to have solutions to these problems. And I think one of the things with this committee, I feel like my company has an advocate. They're making sure, as I'm doing the work, making sure I'm ready, they're making sure I can get on these larger projects in Oakland. So that's one of the things I wanted to come back on the show and kind of, talk a little bit more about the solutions that we, have. Yes.
I have a quick question. How do you manage egos? When you have egos, how do you manage egos when you have two separate chambers? I mean, how do you facilitate those egos?
Well,
to get productive?
Well, with the San Francisco San Francisco African American Chamber and the Oakland, the members are also friends. So they've been knowing each other for 30 years, 40 years. So I haven't seen any of that grandstanding or anything. This is really they formed this committee, strictly to help our contractors. It's the disparity. It's been this way for, I think, Art, you said 30 years, way before I came on the scene. So we really wanted to form this committee or task force, if you will, just to really address these problems. And for me, I'm fairly new in this industry, but I can see already what a difference the committee is making. I was contacted by the larger contractors to the meet and greet to make sure that I'm included. I was contacted to attend their project management courses and their training courses so that I'm included. So I feel like the committee is really doing what they said they would do and what they set out to do.
I have a question for you, Tammy. What can Black elected officials and what can elected officials in general do to help better position minority businesses?
I think for the elected officials, I think that if they, kind of make sure that these larger contractors and the contracting agencies use, just make sure they're using the Black contractors, just keep on that track by mentioning it. Go ahead, Art.
Not just use them.
Yeah.
One thing that, and thank you for letting me chime in. I want to expand just 1 second on that. These contractors will pay you to do nothing so that you learn nothing and you can't move up the ladder. That is a critical component. I was part of a mentor protege program on the hospital project and several other projects. Let me be perfectly clear. Them white boys did not want to teach me a damn thing. So for you people sitting up here going, oh, the mentor protege program, the work. Yes, it works when the people who are mentoring teach their protege. Yeah, it works. So I had to throw that in because they want to, and I'm going to be working with Tammy to make sure she gets protege right and get mentored correctly.
Well, you need a third party oversight that can look at these programs, usually from an educational, a community college or a university. If the program does not give you college credit, it's a waste of time. If you cannot get a community college to say, if you do this program, you get certain amount of credits towards your AA degree. So there's a pathway to education for the owner who might just have a trade, have high school, have a trade, but through this, he now has 10 credits to go into community college to get an AA in business. If there is no avenue to move up intellectually and financially, then the program is useless. I've seen programs that are useless.
Let me get back to Tammy. Come on, Tammy, finish what you were saying.
Yeah, let me say another thing about the disparity study. You were talking about the politicians. We had one of our council members who really took the disparity study and made sure that it was broadcast throughout. Because I think with the city of Oakland, when the disparity study first came out, I think it was kind of maybe hidden. So that council member was able to take the disparity study, make sure it was issued, make sure the public knew about it. We did news conferences with this city council member. And I think that's what really helped start the conversation about, hey, these minority contractors, these women contractors we're not getting on projects. So if we have council members throughout the nation doing that same thing, we can make a difference here.
Hey, Donnie, that's why I love Tammy. She stays positive.
Do you find that our elected officials need to be educated about the disparity study and MBE overall? A lot of times I find we expect them to know, but I remember speaking with a new mayor some years back who knew absolutely nothing about minority business enterprise at all.
I don't know.
Tammy?
I don't understand how you could be a mayor and have no business past performance or capability. I really don't.
All the time.
Yeah, and I think
I know. It
Yeah,
just recently happened in Baltimore.
Come on, Tammy.
I don't understand.
Come on, Tammy.
No, I think the politicians and the mayors, and I think they know about the disparity study. But like I said, in Oakland, I mean, the disparity study had been completed maybe 8 months or something like that before it was issued. So I think with, you know, some of the politicians are trying to hide the information from the public. So until we
knowing about it and utilizing it as a tool that you have paid for is two different things.
That's right.
But also, Tammy's talking about making it public. And what I really hate, Tammy, is put them on Front Street. We need elected officials that know how to put it out there in everybody's face, so they have to respond. And for them not to respond, let me give you a scenario happening here in Maryland. There's a governor's race in 2022, next year. And there are people who have dropped their names in the ring. But best believe, when Donnie Glover gets a hold to them, I am going to ask them, what are they going to do to help create some new Black millionaires, to help empower Black businesses, and to ensure that minority business enterprise goals are met? That's what I'm going to do. That's what I've done for the past 20 years. You will not come on this show and not answer that question. Black, white, zebra, I don't care who you are. So you better get your stuff together now, because we're going to be asking what you did with the disparity study.
Right. And I think
you're exactly correct, Tammy. I found out about Baltimore County's disparity study that it was just completed last week on my own. I just happened to be perusing the internet and looking at minority participation levels, and I was like, "Oh, here go disparity study. It was just completed." Never heard anything from my councilman. Never heard anything from any politician that it was done. And these disparity studies ain't done overnight. We should even know when this disparity study was initiated.
Exactly.
That's right. That's one of the things
when it was started, and what were the goals of the study? We should know all of that.
Let me add into that, Tammy, that in Baltimore County, they had not had a disparity study in 13 years, correct, Derek?
Yep.
13 years. Come on, Tammy. Come on, Tammy.
That's what the Oakland African American Chamber, that's what we're talking about with this committee. I mean, the chamber actually got the disparity study and was like, hey, what is it? Why isn't this published? Why isn't, why are the public not knowing about, because if you're not a contractor, if you're in an office somewhere and you don't have anything to do with construction or engineering or anything like that, then you probably wouldn't know about the disparity study. So that was one of the things the African American Chamber did, was make sure that the report was public so that we can start working on solutions for it.
Let me throw something at you.
Okay.
Usually it says it has to be published. Let's stick it on the website and it's published. It's public information. Now, if you get them to change the language that everybody needs to be on local news and in the community papers and everything else, and they create this opportunity so the word gets out, then it's a different matter. There is the letter of the law and there's a spirit. When it suits individuals, they use the letter. The letter says that we must publish it, so we'll put it on the website. The spirit is, if you don't know about it, it does not exist. Right? So one of the things I was talking earlier about is teaching Black businesses what the process is. Why do you do this? how it's done. And if you understand that there is a process, you understand that this is going to happen, then you know exactly what to expect. And then you can ask the right question. The problem is we're not asking the right question to the right people. Sometimes we don't know who the right people are, but usually they will tell you, we met all the requirements. And when you read it, it says it just has to be published. So they put it on their website and don't tell anybody. It's published.
May I ask you something, Derek? In Oakland, California, the last disparity study showed that out of $450 million, 86% of dollars went to one group of white men. 6%, or approximately 6%, went to African American businesses, woman-owned business. Do you know the number where you are?
No, I don't. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't looked in detail at this study yet, but I will be shortly.
Let me be clear. You cannot, a group of any people cannot grow their economic base if you're only getting crumbs out of a big pie. Oakland used to be 46% African American. Now it's shrinking down to less than 22%. And the reason for that is at the executive level of the city of Oakland, there's directors, there's managers, and the supervisors, and their worker bees. The executives in Oakland, the mayor's white. The managers and directors, the mayor hired them, and they're all white. And those white people give those white those white people give those contracts to their white buddies. You cannot have $450 million in contracts and give 86% to white men and think that that's cool.
Tammy, you also deal with accounting?
I'm sorry?
Do you also have you have an accounting arm also?
We have an accounting and tax preparation business as well.
And
so
that.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do with Magnolia Engineering is we're unique in that we're construction and engineering, but we have the administration portion of our business, and we really want to concentrate on providing assistance to our smaller contractors. Because I know last week we talked about some of the issues that smaller contractors have in terms of their invoicing and their administrative part. So what we want to do is step in and make sure that that piece of their business is on point so they can get paid. Because we talked about this, you turn in the invoices or paperwork's not right, then now you're not getting paid. Now that's an easy way to get you out of business. So with Magnolia, we want to address that problem as well.
But also, Tammy, and Alfred talked about this in the first segment. Can you tell me about bonding? If I don't have my paperwork together, my invoices, then obviously my credit probably sucks. How does accounting fit into the larger scheme when it comes to credit and bonding and growing our fiscal capacity?
Well, with your bonding, like you said, if your credit's not good, then you're probably not going to be able to get the bond, right? So what we want to do is make sure that not offer credit repair services, but provide resources for credit repair services and provide training for invoicing, training for administrative, whatever documents you need to make sure you're able to be bonded. That's what we want to provide. We also want to be a liaison with some of the larger contractors. They don't have time to make sure the smaller contractors have their paperwork in order, but we want to be able to do that. And one of the things I talked about last week, that's another thing that the Oakland African American Chamber put in place. We partnered with the construction resource center here in Oakland. And they have like a 10-week project management class to teach our smaller contractors about what, invoicing and paperwork, and make sure we're ready. Because a lot of the times we're talking about the disparity study, but we got to make sure we're ready too to get on these larger contracts. So that's another solution that the Oakland African American Chamber kind of started promoting. Yes.
May I chime in quick off of what she just said? Let me be clear. Through my litigation against this large billion-dollar company, and they had to provide what's called disclosure. The white man let the other white man bill from a pencil to tractor trailers. When I asked to bill, or when I said, why can't I bill? They said, oh, no, you can't bill that. But when my attorneys and I looked through disclosure, I lost almost $1 million because the white man said, oh, you can't do like the other white man. Only white people can do that. They can bill for that. Until we get, once again, oversight and fair oversight, because I can't bill effectively. I can't bill competitively if they're apples and oranges. If you're billing from the time you walking on a job site, from the time you put a pencil, a tractor trailer, a screwdriver, I say, I want to bill. Oh, no, you people can't bill. It's not going to work. It's not fair. The playing field is not even. That goes against to the politician having a fair and equitable way of saying apples for apples.
Well, okay, let me throw something at you. You have 20 firms billing a county, 20 primes. You know that the county has a standard contract. Why do the 20 primes have different contracts to their subs? Other than to what the expression is in the industry is to bury them under paper. Why doesn't the county say, this format that I use to you, you use to everybody else? Yeah. So you have 5 contracts with the same county. Your invoicing is identical to the county.
Exactly.
So the paperwork that one firm generates one paperwork 5 times. But you as a small business working with 20 firms have to have 20 different types of invoicing protocols. That's money. That is money.
Lawyers.
Yeah. So if you standardize everything, I've worked in programs that have worked very well because the people who ran the program used to be in the program. So they understand the shortfalls of it, and these questions were addressed. And what the county did at the time, I don't know if it has changed, is whatever the format is I use to you prime, you use all the subs have it. So any contract that the county issued, the invoicing was identical. And I thought that was brilliant. I didn't come up with that. Somebody else did, and I give them praise for it. But you have 10 county contracts, your invoicing process is identical. You learn it once. Each firm teaches you something different. You have to go back and learn 10 different type of protocols to get paid. That is part of the thing. That is where they kill you with the administrative and the little nuances that they ask for. Some want it with all your change orders, some want it with the most current. So you have to package each invoice, and then time is money. Standardize everything. When they talk about flow down, they don't include the invoice. Why?
Well, Alfred, let me address that. I had become so good at getting my paperwork in, they had signed me subcontractors to work under me. Now, Tammy, thank you for bringing up that company CRC. I had a chance to sit in that 10-week class, and the training apparatus, the training material that they shared is definitely critical, and it's taught by 2 Black people, a brother and a sister, Lynn and Latanya Turner. And let me be clear, I enjoyed it because just like I'm speaking frank to you all here, they speak frank in the class. We cannot sugarcoat racism. We cannot sugarcoat being people smiling in your face and stabbing a knife in your back. We have to call it for what it is. It is racism. It is a means to keep black and brown brothers and sisters off of that high level. They want to keep us with the worker bees. They don't want us to have the learning and the intelligence to run our own. And as I said last time, I don't want to be no subcontractor, and neither does Tammy. If you want to come in being a general, running stuff, like we should, and we can if the foundation is laid correctly. Getting back to what Tammy said, the accounting and taxes are critical. The accounting and taxes are critical. These companies, if you get one penny off, they will figure out a way not to pay you for another 30 days and another 30 days. These contracts are boilerplate. They can all be negotiated, and the white boy is negotiating with the white boy. We black people don't know that they're boilerplate contract. Would that be a fair statement, Alfred and Derek?
Well, the statement is that the contract cannot be changed, and that is in itself, depending on which side you are, that is true. A contract cannot be changed, but a contract can be amended. But what they are saying is that the original contract cannot be changed, the language, but they don't tell you the second part. Just like the Constitution, the words have never changed, but it has been amended. So when they make those statements, I laugh usually in these presentation meetings, and when I look at it, I says, but you can amend the contract, right? Yes. I say yes, because when you sign the contract, it says everything that you have negotiated as of today is null and void if it's not in the contract. They usually have that language in there. So whatever they promise you don't mean nothing unless it's in the contract. So they tell you what they need to tell you to create the illusion and create this. Remember, perception is what you believe to be true. It doesn't have to be true. What you perceive it to be true. Okay. So what they do, they make these statements, which is not lying. It's just not the whole statement. You see what I mean? And that is how they get away with it. Yes. It's
like cooking the books. Like I know.
No, cooking the books is fraud. If I say to you, this document cannot be changed, I'm not lying to you. But if I say to you, this document as it is written cannot be changed, but we can negotiate an amendment.
I'm not, Alfred, in all due respect, I'm not talking about changing the document. I'm talking about before the document is signed. Those documents are boilerplate contracts that are designed to enrich the person, the contractor.
Right. That is why you need that.
Before you sign the contract, your attorney go through that contract line by line and say, oh, no. Instead of paying me in 2 years, you're going to pay me in 2 weeks. That's what I'm talking about. That's an exaggeration. But before you sign that contract,
you need... No, that's what I was saying before earlier to Danny. You need a great attorney. And the difference between a great attorney and a good attorney is a good attorney can write a good contract. A great attorney can get you out of one. Right. So when you're looking for an attorney, you need an attorney that has gotten people out of good contracts. Because as you grow your business, there's going to be sometimes you need to get out of a good contract or what they call an ironclad, which is no such thing. So you need that service. You need to understand that as you grow your business, that is going to happen. So you start looking for them now. Even if you cannot afford them, you know who they are. So when you're ready for them, you can track that their reputation is still stellar. So when you call them, you know their track record. You're not hunting. You don't hunt when you're hungry. You hunt because you need food. So when you hunt when you're hungry, you take whatever you can. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You take whatever is available, not what is healthy for you. So in your planning, you have to do these things and make sure that, like a CPA or an accountant, you need a CPA that can do government type accounting, especially if you're going after government jobs, federal jobs, because your accounting system is not exactly commercial. It's not private. So these things you have to understand, because what happens is that you're going to pay now or pay later. But if you know who you need, when you need them, then you can, it's better, it's easier for you to negotiate based on some information that you have. But yeah, you always need a construction attorney to read a construction contract. A commercial attorney that does international law cannot help you with a construction contract. It's a different animal.
And,
I'm an attorney, what they do.
And
people don't know what they do.
The biggest thing about this, Alfred, is the big white machine has spent tens of hundreds of millions of dollars designing a contract that is going to enrich the white person, the white man, and impoverish the black business.
No. Let's not with contracts. Let's not do white or black. Whoever writes the contract writes it to their benefit. That's the fact. That is why every small business must have their own contract written by their attorney.
Right, big contracts like that. First off, Alfred, how many brothers do you know?
No.
On a
Contracts are negotiated.
Hold tight, Alfred. No, what I'm hearing is we need our lawyers to be aware of the needs of our MBEs too. So not only do we need our elected officials to be educated on minority business and enterprise and so forth, we also need lawyers. We need our black lawyers in particular to be aware of the fight, the strengths, the weaknesses, and all of the things that you have alluded to. That's what I'm hearing.
And we also we also need our accounting people that can manage the different industries' financial reporting.
And
so,
Tammy,
you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tammy, let me.
One of
Tammy, let me ask you this.
Hold tight, Derek. Y'all, hey, listen, gentlemen, we got a lady here. Now let this lady talk.
Well, one of the things that the Construction Resource Center, that was the first thing they said, in order to be successful as a minority Black-owned business, you have to have the proper lawyer in place for your business. You have to have the proper accountants. And there was one more thing, if you remember, Doug, it was the lawyer, the accountant, and one more element.
Banker.
The bank.
Oh, the bank, yes.
Yeah, your money guy.
Yes, that's right. So those three elements, if you're missing one, you're not going to be successful in this. So, we just have to be proactive. We have to have those things in place before we go after these large contracts. That's simple as that. I mean, we can talk about all the problems and, we're being left out and all these things, but we have to also be ready.
Tammy, I want you to also share with us what the Oakland African American Chamber did in the middle of the pandemic.
Oh, okay. So in the middle of the pandemic, we got a lot of reports from our Black-owned businesses that they would apply for the PPP loan and they weren't getting it. So we had to come up with something for our members. So Kathy Adams thought of something called the Oakland African American Chamber Resiliency Fund. She's like, let's go out and get, fundraise and get this money for our Black businesses. So in 90 days, she was able to, with the chamber, able to raise over $1 million so that we can provide our own grants to our members and community. So I think we granted over 150 grants, to Black businesses, and they ranged from $2,500 to $10,000. So we did that during the pandemic. We made a lot of people happy. We made a lot of the businesses, without the grant or the PPP, they would be out of business. So we were able to, make sure that a lot of our businesses stayed in business.
Tammy, I've talked to a lot of chambers. I have never heard that story before. And I commend you and the work that the Oakland African American Chamber is doing It is setting a national precedence, and we commend you. Doug. We commend you.
I like to say this. They also won 2020 #1 African American chamber in the United States out of what 100. Tammy?
Yeah. So we're #1, and all of it is. That's why we're trying to. With everything we do, we're trying to take a proactive approach with the contractors, with the PPP, with the grants. We're trying to be proactive, because we know there's barriers, there's things set up for us not to succeed. And so what we're trying to do with the chamber is address those problems before they come about. So
Doug Burnett, you got to get on your horse out there in Baltimore County and get to raising $1 million, man. So we can give out some $2,500 grants and $10,000 grants. That's what we got to do here. They've showed us the way, Derek.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, and
I got a question for you, Tammy. On the Oakland disparity study, who determined what years and time frame they complete the study from?
I'm not sure if that's the city of Oakland or the company who performed the study. I'm not sure. I think in conjunction with
and the reason I asked that, they just completed Baltimore County disparity study last month, March 2021. But the term and years they used to complete this study was from 2012 to 2017. Yeah. So what happens to the years 2018 and 2019 when Baltimore County released over maybe $500 million in contracts? Does that information just fall off the table?
No, that information gets washed into the new disparity study. It could have been strategic while it was not done. The new one, the latest one. You have an old one.
Well, I don't understand why the one that was completed from 2012 didn't include all the way up to 2019. Why you gonna cut it off at 2017?
It's every 5 years.
Probably worse.
Yeah,
right. Because at that point, the numbers won't add up. That's why they cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers won't add up. That's what I call cooking the book.
I don't understand. Help me, somebody. Explain.
Johnny, they had a lawyer complete this disparity study, and the disparity study was completed from the years 2012 to 2017. But that disparity study was completed and released and final as of March 2021. So my point is, what happened to the years of 2018 and 2019 when Baltimore County released over $500 million in contracts? What happened to all that information being included in the disparity study?
Well, let me just add in, folks. Let me just add in for clarity's sake. Tammy, in Baltimore County, the county executive, a white guy, Johnny Olszewski, is running for governor potentially next year. How do you think that's going to pan out? Do you think that could become an election issue?
Yes.
Yeah.
So look, you're exactly right, Donnie. So if that disparity study comes out and it looks favorably as it relates to minority business, it makes it look like his administration was doing the right thing. Yeah. As it relates to minority business. I'm a guy to be trusted on the larger level with state funding as a potential government.
Tammy, the county executive before Johnny Olszewski, Kevin Kamenetz, he also ran for governor. And he's the one who did not do a disparity study. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Quite often, I find that these elected officials who want to move up fail to deliver at their current station. They want to be, they might be mayor and want to be governor, but you got to show us what you've done for us as mayor if you want to become governor.
Right.
If I can't give you $5, I will trust you with $25.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. Let me just say this. That's why early on I said in the city of Oakland, remember I said the Oakland African American Chamber had to make sure that the study was even issued. The study was somewhere buried in the back where nobody could see it. For who knows, why would the city of Oakland not want to issue the disparity study?
Which speaks to our brothers and sisters in Baltimore County, which is like, 8 miles. Derek lives about 8 miles from where I live. But as we have integrated over the past 50 years into otherwise white suburbs, we must still bring that same grit, hunger, and fight from Baltimore City out to Baltimore County, even though our numbers aren't that large, because here's the fact. Blacks sway any election in Maryland. We're 30%, we sway any election, and thus these elected officials better get on their job because they can easily not get the job they want.
They know that. They know that because to become governor in the state of Maryland, you have to carry 3 distinct counties. 2 of them are African American. You got to carry Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and Prince George's County. If you don't carry and appease to those 3 areas, now the 3rd county is Montgomery County. If you don't appease to the 2 African American counties, you're not winning.
But
point blank.
Danny,
is there someone
you and I spoke about the disparity study is the Achilles heel, because not only it is historical, it has recommendations that you either did or did not do. You cannot deny if it was done or didn't do it, because if it's a written recommendation and nothing was done, you ignored it. Therefore, if you look at the previous disparity study, you look at the current one, put it this way, it's the easiest job to get paid for. Because
do you know why it's the easiest job, Tammy?
Because if nothing happens, then there is the same thing to write about.
It's copy and paste.
When you look at the disparity study of 700 pages, you know what I do? Recommendations. Because the recommendations refer back to the statistics. You print the 2 recommendations for the 2 years, and if you run across it, all they do is change the word from therefore to furthermore. But the result is the same because you did nothing. If you do nothing, do not expect change. So the easiest digging out. You charge $3-4 million and you don't do anything because nothing was done. It's a sweet deal. But we pay a lot of money for it because it sounds good. But if you ask any politician that has to run a disparity study in his community, what have you done since the last disparity study? And like Derek said, if there is a 5-year gap between the reports, why? What happened to it? Why didn't you bring it current before you started wanting to become governor? What happened in those previous 5 years? Because what they did was they delayed it, went 5 years and now have 2007. So they can delay it again and then do the next 5 years in 2005. Then they can do it because it says it has to be a 5-year report. I do not know if it has a timeline. So if you understand, as I said, if you understand the way it's written, you understand that the report has to be 5 years. So what they did was they waited 10 years and gave you a 5-year report, which is cool. They met the requirement. It don't help anybody because it's not, you can't analyze 2017 based on 21. Too much things have happened. The economy has changed, the way the business has changed. A lot of COVID has now added to it, which is now you have to do a supplementary to address that. But if it says every 5 years, what he's doing is actually just delaying the 5 years. Yeah. I'm massaging it. So, if it looks bad in Derek's situation in 2018, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to combine them under 10 years when I can pad a little good to the bad and mitigate the atrocity. Yeah. It's numbers don't lie. People lie with numbers. Because you know, when people talk about average, you ask them which one, and you usually see the horror in their face. If it's a mean or a medium, which one? Which one of the average you using? Because people don't ask that question, because people don't understand that average is calculated depending on what you want to do with the numbers. You know, so you know it's the game that is played. But if you have to understand how the game is played, then you can counter it. So when you ask that question, they know you go ask it. So you want them to verify it and justify it.
Alfred, two things. First off, when you playing a game with someone, they're the referee, they're your opponent, they make the rules, and they got all the money. That ain't no game. That's a loose hand.
Setup.
Yeah, that's a setup. Second thing, I think, Tammy, you had invited someone from the San Francisco Board, African Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, Fred Jordan. Hopefully he's available, because I wanted him to discuss, you know, what we did as a committee with the Oakland African American Chamber to kind of respond to the disparity study. So hopefully,
maybe we can get him next week.
Can I ask a question?
Alfred, I hear all these great things you're saying, and all due respect, the game's been rigged since the 1600s.
Yeah.
It's been rigged so that Black people of color, people who look like you and me and Tammy and Derek and Donnie, that we can't win, that we don't win, and that we ain't gonna never win, but we can win just like we're doing now. Donnie, I commend you on your show, because hearing Derek talk, hearing Alfred talk, hearing Tamara Brown talk, we all have one common denominator problem. Let's all come together with a common denominator problem solution.
yeah.
And once we do that, then what works in Oakland, we might have to tweak it a little bit, but it's going to work in Baltimore. What works in Baltimore, we may have to tweak a little bit, but it'll work in Chicago. But right now, nothing's working. When you got in Oakland $450 million, and out of 86% of that money is going to white people, we'll never get out of slavery.
Let me just intervene and say that, Tammy, you are so important to this fight. Not only you, but Kathy. You are as important as Stacey Abrams. A lot of times we look at the politics. Oh, I got to vote for this person to be president. But it doesn't stop there. If the politics does not translate into economics, then it means nothing. Yeah, you have bragging rights, my president, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't translate into economic development for our communities, it means nothing. And more specifically, Black women are taking over. This is a new day.
That's true.
It's a new time, and we encourage you to shine, shine, shine. Like Doug, I'll be right there helping to support, lead the way. Quite often in Alfred's country, in Jamaica, on a $500 bill is Nani, the Maroon Queen, the Queen of Jamaica with the machete. She was a leader who fought in established territory, Maroon Town, for the people in this country. Shirley Chisholm, long ago, Fannie Lou Hamer, my heart, Harriet Tubman. So many women have fought and led the way, and we salute you. You're not just a businesswoman, you are a warrior queen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I have one technical question. Is your chamber setup different from other chambers that you could, in other words, are you a 501c3 so you can get nonprofit status and get funding? Grant?
Yeah, our chamber is a 501c6, and then we have but we also have a foundation, which is a 501c3.
That is it, Danny.
Then we have another segment.
Tell me about that. Why?
Yeah, you have to structure it to get money.
Yeah, in order to fundraise and get funds, then we have to set up the 501c3, and that way it's a tax deductible
for companies.
Donation, yeah, for companies.
That's why I'm saying you have to understand the process and the procedures and the mindset. Now we understand the principles. We can adapt it for local.
Yeah, so a lot of chambers may not be set up like that, and that is important. You are absolutely right.
Yes,
to have the 501c3.
You see what I mean? When I was talking to you earlier about how you set up processes, how you understand. We don't have to duplicate what they did. We just have to understand the philosophy, why it was done.
Right.
And then we can take that and run with it.
Well, and then one more thing. We also have our political PAC, which is a separate organization. So we have our Oakland African American Political Action Committee. So then we can run when, well, not just during election time, but we can
endorse.
Exactly. So we are set up. We have our 3 organizations. And the 4th is the Resiliency Fund. That's also a 501c3. We didn't have to set that up, but we wanted to be a little separate. So we knew this was going to be a large, when you're talking about millions of dollars, we knew that was going to, be a big thing. So we set up our own or separate organization for that. So we're set up. Pretty
so that organization can actually go to like Kennedy, the Kennedy Foundation and the internet, the big banks foundation and get money program. You see what I mean, Danny? They're building. They have the foundation set, so they can build upon it. So every avenue they can tap at in.
Yeah. And I'd like to piggyback off of what Donnie said, and this goes for all the Black men out there. Quit being a roadblock to these sisters. Be a bridge and let them cross over you because they're gonna take us with them. But some of these brothers are so insecure. They're so they're too macho or whatever you want to call it. If your woman, your friend, your partner can get the job done, blocking her blessings. Be a bridge and don't be a block.
Because we all need each other. We need, just like you need us as women, we need you as men, so we can, work collectively, to resolve some of these problems.
In terms of
Derek, I'm gonna need you. Hold tight, Alfred, because you want to take over, Tip. Hey, Derek. Derek. Tell him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You better tell him about Mrs. Burnett.
Oh yeah. I don't have any problems, man. I love my wife. I mean, she I call her. She's the board of directors in this household. You got to run things through the board of directors to get it approved. but we have another advantage here in Maryland. Can't forget Adrian Jones, Donnie.
Speaker pro tem.
You can't forget Adrian Jones. African American woman who's the actual she's not speaker pro tem anymore.
I'm sorry. Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House for the state of Maryland.
Yeah.
And she lives in Baltimore County. So it's a lot of political power in our community, but it's not a comparative economic power. That's the problem. We put the cart before the horse.
Sometimes our elected officials get in there and they think it's all about them, or they forget about their actual job. Their job is to deliver. And here's another thing. This is a public service announcement. We got to pass the ball. It wasn't meant for us to die in office. So get in there, do your couple of terms, and pass the ball on to somebody else. Career politicians don't help us.
No.
Because they get too comfortable.
Exactly.
And soft.
It's true.
This is a fight. Doug, you would agree, it's a fight.
Donnie, about the second year of me fighting this company, being blackballed, not being able to get any business. It's a couple of times I wanted to give up, but my dad passed away in 2014, and he used to tell me, if you don't get any bruises, you haven't been in a fight. So expect to get a couple of low blows, an elbow in the chin, but get back up and win.
Well, on that note, I can tell you I've lost an election or two. I've supported some people that didn't win. And a result of that, sometimes, Derek, is not getting any business for a minute. And so I know, my mama been gone 35 years, but I know I might not have to go back to a basement, but I know about not getting the access, because at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about, access.
That's right.
So let's go around the horn and get some final thoughts. Let's start with you, Alfred.
This conversation is what I found it very revealing is that there's so much information out there that we're not sharing. I mean, I love what your chamber is doing. I'm going to actually Google them later on and see, and then I might, with your permission, reach out to you and try and get how things were formulated, if you had an action plan or how you structured it. But that is beautiful. So, when we come together collectively and we talk, we learn something, which is important, because information is not power unless it's shared.
So let me share this about
So
Alfred,
this meeting here works.
Alfred, you worked in minority business, and I never heard it before. MBE WBE. You worked in MBE WBE where in the United States?
Oh, I started out in Florida. I did a couple contracts in Atlanta and New York City, and I'm now in Maryland. But I'm a student, so where I go, I sit down and I look up all the laws, all the preambles, all the stuff to get an understanding and a feeling of what it's supposed to be, and then I look at what it is. So I come with
he's the one that will read the 300, 400-page document, Tammy, and pull out what we need, because I don't have that kind of patience.
Well, if you have to understand, that's why I say sometimes when they do things because you don't understand what they're doing, is that they're not. It's legal. It might not be ethical, but it's legal. So you have to understand how it's manipulated, like what they did with these 5 years. It's not something that has not been done already. But this group, what I love this group about this group, we all have the same goal in mind, and the approach, you will learn from each other's approach. So there are things like with the chamber I never knew was chambermatic, if there's such a word. But I love what you guys doing. I think it's something that you can lead the charge to help other chambers build. And if you ever have to present to the national board, please send me an invite. Okay, thank you. But that's where I'm just excited that it's good. Einstein once said, if you walk into the room and everybody asks you the question and you're in the wrong room, you must walk into a room where you learn something. I have learned something here. And every time I come on the show, I learn something new, which is, I'm excited. But
thank you, Alfred, for being my ride or die. He's one of my ride or dies, and he turns on a dime. Dark Burnett, what saith you from the great Baltimore County?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Donnie. I've been on the outside looking in the last couple of weeks, and I said, man, this has been a great show. So I appreciate everything that was going on. I appreciate the opportunity just to speak my little piece. Tammy, my hat's off. You've done an excellent job in Oakland. Continue to do what you're doing. I really appreciate you. Love all your time, energy, and efforts. Doug, I love your analogy of a fist. That's going to make a difference. If you point me with a finger, I'm not going to feel it as much as if you hit me with a fist. So I love that analogy. The fact that, and Alfred, I love your commitment to our cultural collective collaboration of corporations. We got to come together. We got to be on one accord. And that's basically how things have been designed. It's been designed for us to be checker players in a game of chess. It's been designed for us to be checker players in a game of chess. They've been thinking and establishing and developing these programs and contracts over the last 300-400 years, and we've always been responding, waiting for them to move. No, it's time for us to become chess players on this game of corporation and contracts. We got to start thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead so that we can make the appropriate moves.
Tammy,
and if we don't, as you can see, I hate to say it, if you see, we're gonna be replaced. Like I'm gonna let you know, Donnie, just like I spoke on this earlier. They replaced the African American male in baseball. They're gonna replace us in the corporate field too.
Yeah.
Doug is a huge baseball fan, by the way, folks. Okay, Tammy Willis.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for having me again on the show. And, I just want to say that this is a great platform for this discussion. And, as on behalf of the Oakland African American Chamber, I want to say that, like I said before, we want, we know of the problems, but I think now we want to start talking about solutions and talking about what we have in place to correct these problems. And, on future shows, I would like to talk to, because we had a lot of questions about the disparity study. I'd like to see maybe Mason Tillman is who did our disparity study in Oakland. I'd like to, have
They did the same one here in Baltimore.
Oh, Mason Tillman.
They were the same company that did Baltimore counties.
Yeah.
I bet you was a whole lot of cutting and pasting going on.
So what would be great is if we can, talk to, pose our questions to Mason Tillman and ask them, some of the questions we had today about the disparity study. So I'd like to, kind of put that out there. That'd be great, and just really start talking about solutions and getting us, in the right space to move forward, as Black contractors and woman-owned businesses. So that's what I'd like to see going forward.
And one last thing, Tammy, any words of encouragement to women entrepreneurs who are watching this show?
Oh yeah, for the women out there, there are so many resources for us. And I mentioned earlier the Construction Resource Center. They're there for us, for women and minority businesses to help us, like we talked about with our paperwork and invoicing and things like that. And they're a great resource for us. They're also advocates for us. So as women, we have a lot of resources out there that we can tap into, and hopefully like a show like this, great platform, we can start bringing those forward. So people, women, they have questions about what they're doing. This will be a great resource for them. So that's what I'd like to say to them.
Good deal. Doug, I'm going to pass you the final word, but I'm just going to slide this in there that it's been truly a pleasure. And we have one more week, and after that we can plan whatever's next. But Alfred, for your commitment, Doug, for your passion, Derek, for your analysis, Tammy, for your commitment. If we don't do this, we are no more than beggars sitting on bags of gold. We have nearly $2 trillion. $2 trillion in annual disposable income. Last night we had a show on this network, and it wasn't about business. It had 150 people watching. It had 20, 30 shares. This is not the sexy stuff. If we were talking about Louis Vuitton or the designer things, I'm thinking about different brand names and liquors, or even our rappers. I'm talking to our young boys, and I'm asking them, well, what are you rapping about? anything new? Was it the same? I'm gonna bust you with my gat. I'm gonna shoot you with my. I mean, the energy that we put. And then I hear people say, "Oh, not everybody's made for college." Time out, time out. Dude was riding up the street, Tammy, on a dirt bike with one hand, the other hand up in the air, through the middle of traffic. And you mean to tell me that a mind that understands physics and math and engineering can't all of a sudden can't write a 5-sentence paragraph? I'm tired of the excuses. So tired of the excuses. I'm tired of us having to go to jail before we sit down in a classroom. So enough with the excuses. Our ancestors went through much worse. May 31st, it'll be 100 years since Tulsa. Those ancestors went through lynchings. Exactly. So I don't want to hear the excuses that I'm hearing from our community. It's no time for it. Especially, if all right, I've said enough. That's all right.
It's true. That's
right. Donnie?
Donnie, I was brought up to know and understand excuses are tools of incompetence that builds monuments into nothingness, and those who specialize in them seldom amount to anything else but an excuse.
Ooh. Drop the mic.
Bring it on home, Doug Blackshear.
Donnie, I'd like to first off, it was a wonderful talking to you, Alfred. Excellent. You are articulate and well-versed on MBE WBE. Derek, you and I seem to have a lot in common. We're not fighters. We need to get together and become that fist. Donnie, this is an amazing platform. I will tell everyone this briefly. Media is the only way we're going to strengthen our position here. So we got to support this brother. Media. We look at media every day, but we don't see stuff like this. Last but not least, two things here. Ron Busby, who is the president of the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, and from Oakland, California, he started this. We need to, and where I got really involved when I went with Tammy and Kathy to the 2019 U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce in Baltimore City. And that's when I really said, hey, we got all this talent, this power, but we don't have unity. We got to start telling people, watch this show. Look at the Black Chamber of Commerce. Reach out to Ron. But if you don't have a Black Chamber of Commerce in your city, get one. Because the more, and the last part of that is because Tammy got my eyes awakened to this, is the political power. When a politician knows that you control a block of votes, they will do the right thing relate to you. The politician knows one thing right now. Those black, and I almost said the wrong word. Those black people are not going to vote, but the white man's check is going to clear the bank. Thank you.
Folks, we'll be back this time next week. I hope that you all can join us. My name's Donnie Glover, and thank you for your support. Support Black business by any means necessary. Have a powerful Saturday, everyone.
Thank you.